So good morning, everyone. I am Jessie Whittish with Kentucky Youth Advocates, and it is great to see all of you here for our Advocate Virtual Forum. As a reminder, we are recording today's forum as both a video and as a podcast, so we ask that you stay muted, but please feel free to drop questions into the chat. I think our panelist partners here and KYGA staff can look through that chat and pull out those questions and pass them along to our panelists. So please, if you have specific or general questions, drop those in. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Terry Brooks.
Hey, Jessie, thanks so much. As we always say on these Zooms, we are so appreciative of you joining. We know that some of you have been on all, 120 of these since the pandemic began, and some of you may be brand new, and we're always happy to have you. Today is a really important day. We have some experts, partner experts, to take a deep dive into what's going on in Frankfort. And let's just be very clear. We're about halfway through the session, and there's an inordinate level of ambiguity at play. I think it's so important because the flow that I tend to see with advocates, and that includes us, is that we do a lot of gathering before the session. We get revved up. We do a Children's Advocacy Week early on. And then we do a de post facto analysis after the session, when in fact, this is the very moment that counts. I just got to tell you, the technical phrase that I would use for the 2022 session is weird. How's that for a highly technical? It isn't me, but some 200 years ago, someone wrote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times, it was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness, it was the epic of belief, it was the epic of incredulity, it was the season of light, it was the season of darkness, it was the spring of hope, and it was the winter of despair." Dickens wasn't writing nonfiction or fiction. He could have been writing an op-ed about the 2022 session. We have such oxymoronic and simultaneous trends going. Now, I'm going to say that again. Oxymoronic and simultaneous. So I see some of our really thoughtful leaders from AOC. I think they would tell you that at one level, we're expecting to see some really important legislation around a minimum age of accountability. Really good thing for kids. At the same time, we keep hearing rumors that there's rumblings that would fundamentally roll back some of the really important work that Senate Bill 200 did several years ago. How do you move ahead great ideas and also be pushing regressive and repressive measures at the same time? In the world of K-12, we have some unprecedented opportunities to bring behavioral and social and emotional supports inside of schoolhouses. And yet at the same time, there is a current that can only be described as racist when it comes to curriculum. We've got another trend where instead of doing research-based supports for kids, we want to have a legion of law enforcement officers toting guns in the school cafeteria. So on one hand, we have a strong proposal for trauma-informed supports for kids. At another level, we think the way to help kids is to have a policeman with a gun talking to them. Again, oxymoronic, and simultaneous. The world of child welfare, SB 8, I don't want to bury anybody's thunder here on the panel, but we have SB 8, which is a landmark piece of child welfare legislation from Senator Julie Rocky Adams. At the same time, we have Senate Bill 40, which at one point probably was going to result in increased maltreatment of kids. Where it sits right now, it has the potential to blow up kinship care in Kentucky. Oxymoronic and simultaneous trends. So if you hear a tone of incredulity in my voice, you have detected that accurately. Dickens, in that Dickens quote, we heard wisdom and foolishness, spring and winter, lightness and darkness. And I've got to tell you, that so well characterizes where we are in the session. I am sure that throughout the session, and especially at the end, you're going to hear folks challenge you to go deep, to go quickly, and to take action. And that's what we really are counting on you to do. It doesn't do any of us, and it especially doesn't do Kentucky's kids, an ounce of good to lament after the session. So you're going to hear resources, bill trackers, call to action, a number of things that we want to put out as tools. And folks, I really mean this. We need you to be on top of it. The final request I would make is don't limit yourself. I think I see right in the middle of the screen my good colleague Mike Hammond, and I think Mike would tell you that early childhood advocates need people who legislators don't normally think of as early childhood advocates to make the call. No offense, but if Mike Hammond or Mandy Simpson make the call, they know what's coming. Well, trick them, okay? Maybe your beat is child welfare. Call about early childhood. And the flip is, if you're on this call because you are desperate to know what's happening in early childhood, we want you calling on juvenile justice. So I really, really want to stress that as you listen, whether it's tobacco control or child welfare, don't pigeonhole yourself. Don't think that the only issue that you should be listening to is the issue that animates you, because in fact, where we need you calling is unexpected places. So I hope you hear the gravity of my voice. I am still very optimistic. We were in conversations late last night on some positive legislation, and I think we're going to get some. But we also have to play defense against some really bad ideas. So that's what today is about. That's why we're counting on you so very, very much. It's not us counting on you. It's Kentucky's kids counting on you. So with that, I'm going to kick it to my colleague, Patricia Tennant, who is going to be the ringmaster for what I bet is going to be a great discussion this morning. Thanks again for joining us. Patricia, take it away.
Thanks, Terry. Hi, good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all here. Happy mid-session. We've made it through past the first 30 days. We're halfway there. So we think it's a great time. I think Terry set the stage perfectly. There's lots of good opportunities in front of us, things we need to be pushing back on. And so today knowing I see a lot of familiar faces and some new ones, and just wanted to zoom out a little bit and share. So Kentucky Youth Advocates coordinates the Blueprint for Kentucky's Children. We're the backbone for over 100 different organizations who care about kids, and it's a shared policy agenda. It's holistic. We're looking across health, education, early childhood, justice, child welfare. And it's, I think we're in our over 10 years now. And the good news is that we've got great momentum on our bills. And we wanted to kind of give you an update on where those blueprint priorities that many of you have been helping us to shape and push. We wanted to give you an update where they are, and then talk about, so there's been good movement on a few, give you a status update on our budget priorities for kids, and then go into a deeper dive with some wonderful panelists who are joining us today to give you some insight on some bills that could that we hope to see moving in the near future. So to get us started and give us ground us in what is moving and on the blueprint, I'm going to invite our policy analyst, Corinna Cash, to give you that overview of quickly, what are the bills that are moving and how's the budget looking so far? So Corinna, I'm going to take it away.
Yes, thank you so much. Like Patricia said, my name is Corinna Cash. I'm a policy analyst here at Kentucky Youth Advocates, and I get to walk through where the budget and some policies are. So looking at the budget, right now we're working on a 2-year state budget. The House released theirs kind of unusually immediately when the session started and passed it pretty quickly. And it's now in the Senate. The Senate's had the budget for about 6 weeks, so we're waiting on their budget. Hopefully it will be coming soon. Whenever the Senate launches their budget and they pass it, it will then go to a conference committee where the House and Senate will work out final details and find a budget that's unified. So that's kind of where the budget process is. Looking at our blueprint bills, we've had a lot of really great action on some of our blueprint bills. The first one Terry mentioned in his opening remarks, which is Senate Bill 8. It's a pretty comprehensive child welfare bill by Senator Julie Rockey Adams that does a number of really, really great things for kids, such as expanding the definition of fictive kin and expanding Medicaid coverage for child advocacy centers. That bill has passed the Senate and is now awaiting to be assigned to a committee in the House. The next bill is Senate Bill 97, which strengthens the reporting process when a child fatality or near fatality occurs. That was introduced by Senator Danny Carroll, and that has also passed the Senate and is moving to the House now. The next one is Senate Bill 102, which promotes school-based mental health supports by doing a census of professionals currently in schools so we can get a better idea of where we are. That is by Senator Max Wise. It has also passed the Senate and is now moving to the House. The next bill is Senate Bill 151 by Senator Jason Howell. This would allow up to 15 minutes of instructional time to be used for students to eat breakfast in the classroom. This one recently passed the Senate Education Committee and is now awaiting a hearing in the Senate. The final bill I'll talk about is House Bill 174, which would expand postpartum Medicaid coverage for new mothers up to 12 months. This was introduced by Representative Mackenzie Cantrell, and it passed the House last week and is now moving to the Senate. With that, I'll turn it back to Patricia.
Thank you, Corinna. And I want to also call your attention. I know Corinna went super fast. And so in the chat, there's a link to our bill tracker where all of the bills that she mentioned are listed there along with a fact sheet. You can see a graphic that shows where it is, if it's passed, if it's assigned to a committee, where it is in the legislative process, if it's passed. And so for those that have moved, please check out that bill tracker, see who the sponsors are, and give them kudos, give them your support. I think often they're used to hearing from constituents when they're angry or when they've got problems. But we know it's also a great advocacy strategy to celebrate them and show them support when they are stepping up and doing the things that we are asking them to do for kids. So that's one list you can add to your to-do today, is to check out that bill tracker, see which bills are moving. And if your legislator happens to be sponsoring or supporting that, thank them. And if not, ask them to support it. Okay, Judith, I see your message in the chat on other bills. I'm going to let, we're going to flag SB 94. I'll let others from KYGA get back to you. But in the meantime, we're going to jump into a little deeper into those blueprint bills that have great potential. Like Terry said, there's opportunity ahead, and we need to see them moving in the near future. So I'm going to invite some guests. First, Mandy Simpson, the Chief Policy Officer at Metro United Way. Mandy, do you want to wave to everyone? There she is. We're also excited to have two guests from the Administrative Office of the Courts. Rachel Bingham, who is the Director of the Office of Statewide Programs at the Administrative Office of the Courts. Rachel, you want to wave? There she is. Mavis Williamson, who is the new Executive Officer at the Family and Juvenile Services at the AOC. And then also Shannon Smith, who is the State and Regional Director of Government Relations at the American Heart Association. There's Shannon from her car. Good morning. And then someone you all might know, and I know well, Cortney Downs, who is the Policy and Advocacy Director here at KYA. So welcome you all. And so I know we went really quickly over the ones that are moving, and now we just like to take a little time to get down in the weeds and hear from you all on these really important bills. So Shannon, can I start with you? Can you talk to us? I know there is a bill, a local tobacco control measure that is part of the blueprint that you've been a key partner on. Can you tell us a little bit about, what is the bill, who's sponsoring it, and what committee is it assigned to?
Sure. Thank you very much for having me this morning, Patricia. It's good to see your face. It's been a while. That was a nice surprise this morning. So good morning, everyone. Yes, I am Shannon Smith with the American Heart Association. We have been partnering with KYA for a couple of years now on a local tobacco control bill. This bill is Senate Bill 166, and it is sponsored by Senator Schroeder. This bill would repeal an old law, and that law is KRS 438-300, and that law prevents local governments from being able to pass any law more strict than the state law on the sales, marketing, or distribution of tobacco or tobacco products. You may ask, why are we talking about this? What's our angle here? Well, we know that big tobacco was brilliant across the country and worldwide in marketing these new vape and electronic smoking devices to our youth, and they have effectively addicted an entire new generation to nicotine. So our campaign is Nix the Next. Our goal is to nix the next generation of tobacco addiction and to keep the marketing from, our youth being exposed to the marketing. How can we do this? By repealing that old law, communities would have new tools to pass ordinances, zoning ordinances, or point of sale display laws in their community to help address youth getting these devices in their hands and being exposed from the marketing. So that's a quick and dirty on what the bill does. We didn't get out of committee on committees last session. And I think that there were a couple of things that plagued us with that. That was, having to pass a second year budget, not being able to be in person in Frankfort because of COVID. Well, this year, Senator Schroeder filed the bill a couple of weeks ago. We were quickly assigned to Health and Welfare. That was great news. And then on Friday, we got even better news that we were going to be heard in Health and Welfare today. So yesterday, Mahek and I did our rounds, trying to get a whip count, reaching out to everyone on committee. And unfortunately, what I'll say is at 2:30 yesterday, we were strategizing on testimony because we were set to go before committee. Mayor Les Stapleton in Prestonsburg was going to come and testify as well. We had a youth lined up. So we were really excited. And then last night, approximately 7 p.m.-ish, we got word from our sponsor that the Senate Leadership Caucus had decided to pass over our bill. Senator Schroeder was kind enough to share with me the opposition, and it is coming hard from the Retail Federation, saying that a patchwork of bills would create confusion. And if communities decide to limit the sale altogether, then we will be sending all of our business across state lines. So effectively fear-mongering, I believe, to our leadership and creating enough doubt that, oh my goodness, this is going to happen. So we just need to table the bill. We've since heard, I've had many conversations this morning that it could effectively die now. This bill could never see committee. And the reason why the Federation, Retail Federation, Big Tobacco, any of the tobacco industries do not want us to sit in committee and testify, we have answers to their concerns. We also have the votes to get this passed. What we need help in reaching out, just exactly what Terry said, those unusual suspects on issues that they're not always advocating for, to say, this is important. This is another way we protect our youth. There are many, many ways, but this one, the trajectory of our youth's life, if once addicted to nicotine, where that takes them. It is crucial that leadership hear from us soon. We all know that timing in these committees and with the days waning in session, that could be the nail in the coffin, just dying on time. So really the sense of urgency that I heard in Terry's voice, and I hope you hear in mine as well, it truly is a kind of now or never. And I just appreciate the opportunity to come and share how we got to where we are, the potential of how we can move forward, and even the opposition, and just ask for the support of this group and to share more broadly. So I will stop there. I'm a little bit passionate. In case you can't tell.
Talk about timely, right? Yeah, it's happening. I know Terry has some tidbits to weigh in on this.
Yeah, no, I wanted to take 2 seconds because Shannon, as you can probably tell, is a much nicer person than me. So I'm going to be a little bit more brutal. Here's what we need you to do. I'm going to make a very specific request. Call your senator and AND, call Senate leadership. And it's a real direct message, which is, I understand that SB 166 is a decision whether you support big tobacco or Kentucky's kids. I'm voting for Kentucky's kids, and I expect you to do the same thing. So don't let them off the hook, folks. I mean, go look at campaign finance records and you'll understand the issues at hand here. So pick up the phone or get on your computer and make 2 calls on this particular bill and do it today. Call your senator, call leadership, and you don't have to be nasty, but you need to let them know that you know what's going on. Amen. Right, Ms. Smith? Right, Heck? So there we go. Sorry to jump in, but I'm really kind of pushing all of you all to be activists today. So Patricia, go from here.
Thank you. So you all have marching orders. I think if all of us follow this, I think advice, we've got a way better shot, you all. So you've got your to-do list started now for after this call today. So thank you, Shannon, for that overview, and for Terry for weighing in. And now let's now move to the early childhood front and childcare. I know we've been hearing more about childcare than we ever have. Thanks to the pandemic, if we could say that's the silver lining, as we finally are hearing people are understanding the importance, how essential it is to our economy. And I'd like to invite Mandy Simpson to talk to us about an exciting new bill that's been filed and tell us about House Bill 499. Mandy, what's in it and how can we support it as advocates?
Thank you so much, Patricia and KYA team. Always grateful to be by your sides and to advocate by your sides. I want to talk about the what of this bill, but first, I got to talk about the why. So let's talk about some things that we know right now. I'm going to hit 3. One, we know that the highest expense in too many Kentucky households is not a rent or a mortgage payment. It is childcare, which can cost between $6,000 to $11,000 a year for an infant in Kentucky. And we know that the reality of that is forcing parents to choose between careers and caring for children. And we know what choice they're making because just last year, 40% of working age Kentuckians who were not working were citing care responsibilities as the reason. In January of this year, there were 50,000 Kentuckians who said the same thing. And that matters at a time when we have 140,000 job openings in the state. So that's thing number one that we know. Thing number two that we know is that quality childcare and access to it build equity and opportunity across 2 generations. It's vital for our youngest children, and it is vital for our parents. And we know that creating that true experience that will accelerate the trajectories of both a child and a parent does require cost. And those are fixed costs. They are the cost of educators. They are the cost of healthy built environments, and they are investments in quality. So this cost is essential. So that's thing number two that we know. We also know about that cost, that the resources coming in to cover it are coming from parents, and they are coming from some limited public supports. They are not coming from the private sector that needs the workforce that is being held back by the lack of access and availability of quality childcare. So what we need is a way to bring those resources in and to really tackle the challenge of affordability in early childhood education. So what House Bill 499 does is it would establish the Employee Child Care Assistance Partnership that has several goals, all of which we fully support. The first is providing more access to high quality early learning opportunities for children and for their families. And the second is to encourage private sector, nonprofit, and for-profit investment into childcare as a benefit of employment so that employers have a better ability to recruit and retain their own workforce and acknowledge that they have a lot of skin in this game that is providing early care and education. So what House Bill 499 does is create a partnership that would allow private employers to have employer contributions to childcare matched and maximized by state dollars. So for example, if we look at what in practicality this looks like, if an employer said we can provide $200 a month to employees for childcare expenses, the state would match that. And we can get into the weeds of the administration of what that program looks like, but I just point to a couple things that are important here. One is that in both cases, those payments, those from the employer and from the state, would go directly to childcare providers, and they would be contractual annually. And then anything additional, should there be additional cost, and we know there probably will be, that would be the responsibility of the parent. But this creates some stability, like we have seen with vehicles like the Child Care Assistance Program, that really allow providers to know that they can count on these resources coming in at the time that they're contractually supposed to come in. And that provides consistent capital and confidence at a time where we really need our childcare providers to have the confidence they need to do things like increase wages and make the quality investments that we need for our youngest children. So this is innovative in that it's the first time that we would see a program that really seeks to bring in private sector resources that we long know we've needed in this space at a scale that could truly be game changing, both for Kentucky families and for our networks of childcare providers. That's the quick description. Happy to answer questions or go in further on any of those details.
Just two questions. So could you tell us who's sponsoring the bill, where it sits, and then how can advocates support? Like if they want to find more information to get better informed, where can they go?
Absolutely. Those are the best questions. So we've been really proud to work with Representative Samara Heverin on the House side, who is the lead sponsor on this bill and has put in a ton of time talking with childcare providers, talking with businesses, and making sure that this is a structure that's going to work and to really address the challenges that we're seeing across spaces because of the lack of access to affordable and quality childcare. I'm also excited to say that this bill has nearly 40 co-sponsors in the House. It is a bipartisan initiative. Again, it's a common sense approach that allows us to tap into resources that we've long needed. So the number one thing you can do is call your folks in the House and ask them to read this bill and jump on as a co-sponsor. The more co-sponsors we have, the more momentum that we have. The bill has been filed. It is still in committee on committees. So we're waiting for a formal committee assignment and really hope to get it out of the House as quickly as possible. We're also open to feedback at this point. So again, this is new and Kentucky is really trailblazing here. This is based somewhat on a program from Florida, but it's really tailored to the landscape that we have here in the Commonwealth. So we also really welcome you to take a look at this bill language and to send feedback. I'll make sure that my contact info is in the chat. I'm happy to share. We're proud that this program really targets low and middle income earners because we know when we consider income in the context of vulnerability to child care cost, we have to take a more comprehensive approach and view to make sure that we're really reaching everyone who is sitting at their kitchen table making really hard decisions about the cost of childcare and what they're earning right now and what their earning potential is. We want to take those decisions off the table for families so that they can truly act in the way that they want to for themselves and their families. So call your folks in the House, tell them jump on, get on board. This is some really groundbreaking work that I think again, can be game changing here. So we'd love to have folks on board. Very happy to answer questions for anyone who has those, you as well as representatives.
And I'd see some in the chat, Mandy. So if you could maybe go ahead and put your contact info now. And I know Terry he wanted to chime in here. So
yeah, I just wanted to, again, Mandy did a great job of calling to action. Just want to emphasize two things that she talked about. And I do not want to get thrown off this call by you guys, but I'm going to say something very unconventional. When you call to support this bill in the broader area of early childhood, don't talk about kids. Now, that sounds like, what are you talking about? Don't talk about kids. Don't talk about brain development. Here's the three things you should talk about: workforce, workforce, and workforce. Okay. Right now, the chance to move this is, as Mandy said, Kentucky is underemployed, and the main reason is childcare issues. So pound that. The other thing to think about is one of the most popular words in Frankfort right now is infrastructure, because we got a lot of infrastructure money for bridges and roads and airports, all of which is great. Pound the idea that this is a chance to create an infrastructure system that is just as important as that Northern Kentucky bridge. It's to create a structure so that families for years to come will have access. So again, a little unconventional. I don't want you to call and tell them a cute story about a cute kid. I want you to talk to them about that mom who had to quit her job because they couldn't afford childcare. All right, Patricia, that's my second amen. I'll try to limit it from now on.
Okay. Nope, this is great. Okay. So you've got your second marching orders there. Y'all, I hope you're taking notes. We'll do a follow-up with all of the action steps. So to complement your notes. Okay, we've got two more bills that we want to take some time on. So I'm going to move on. I know there's lots of questions about House Bill 499 that I think Mandy's agreed she'll try to respond in the chat. She's also entered her contact info there. And if we have time at the end, we'll come back to it. But I do want to make sure we've got time for the other two. So next, I want to turn to Rachel and Mavis to talk about a bill that has been a blueprint priority for years. We're hoping this year is the year. It's far past time to set a minimum age of accountability for children to be charged in court. So I'm not sure, Rachel or Mavis, which one of you wants to start off? But
I'm sorry. I'm gonna start.
Okay, great. Okay, could you just give us an overview? Tell us what's in the bill, who's sponsoring, what's the status?
Absolutely. I have to add something really quick since it's Black History Month. And I think that last night was a great night for one of our colleagues, Keturah Haran, who was elected into District 42. So many of you on this call know her, and we're really excited for her and just wanted to give that shout out because I think that it is a very important time for her in that community. So congrats to Keturah. So we've been involved in trying to find a way to really sort of keep moving on what we found to be the extremely effective and successful reforms that happened back in 2014 for juvenile justice, and really trying to figure out what are some additional opportunities to really have kids have the opportunity to have better outcomes. And so one of the categories that we all could completely understand and are super supportive of is looking at our younger population of kids. That in Kentucky, there is no age limit on when you can actually file a complaint on a child for a public, which is any charge that you or I can be charged with, or a status offense, which are those things that only kids can be charged with. Those are things like truancy, beyond control of parent, beyond control of school. And so what we have found in Kentucky is that particular population, we may not need to, obviously, for when you're thinking about an age group of 12 and under, come through a juvenile justice process. This bill has been floating around in some form for a couple of years, and the goal is to be able to really have any kids that are 12 and under, based upon the charges, to be able to go through the ability to work with a multidisciplinary team, the FAIR, which is a Family Accountability Intervention Response Team that was developed in the 2014 reforms. And that is a group of professionals that are able to really wrap around kids and be able to make sure that they have the services and supports relevant to their individual needs. So it's that individual case management that many of us on this call love, and an ability to keep kids from moving further into the court system. And so it's very intentional to bridge based upon charge, still gives the county attorney the ability to use their discretion and see whether or not those kids are eligible. Also provides a chance for us to work with the kids at an earlier stage based upon their age. And so we're looking at, in Kentucky in 2021, about 894 cases, which in the grand scope of things only makes up about approximately 4% of our total cases, our charges for the state of Kentucky. And primarily, we see those charges on status offenses. So truancy is our number one charge in the state of any type of complaint, and it's also the number one charge when you look at this particular age category. You also notice that there is a greater number as you move closer to that 12-year-old mark. So for example, we don't necessarily see very many complaints under 10, but you do tend to see an increase when you get to 11 and 12. Given the chance for the court designated worker program and the FAIR team to actually work with this population of kids, we are actually 93% successful for kids that are on diversion. So we have a very high success rate. We have the ability to really be able to provide better supports and resources. And we don't want to see our kids in any way touch the juvenile justice system, because we know that there is the trajectory that they'll have further contact with the system. So we want to get them into more restorative practices at the front end and not have to have them ever enter court would be the primary goal. So this particular bill really, provides that opportunity to do that, and is one way to be able to get that moving. Now, as far as I know, it is getting ready to be introduced and co-sponsored by Representative Nemes and Moser. Am I correct on that, Cortney? And so so we don't know a bill number yet, but we know that it's forthcoming. It does fall in line, as Terry had mentioned, about some of the increases that we've seen in drawing positive attention to reforms, but then also we have seen a lot of things that for kids that have a negative connotation. I think what's important on this is that we mentioned that the court designated worker program is not going to impact their caseload in a negative way. So we don't have to worry about a fiscal, note that could be attached to it. This really is just adding another opportunity to access that FAIR team. And we have the structure in place to be able to do that. Mavis is going to touch on some of the research and some of sort of what your messaging can be if you're talking to legislators about this particular bill. Mavis?
Sure, thanks, Rachel. So as of January 2021, 28 states have minimum ages defined. And so we also know data from the National Juvenile Justice Network exposure, and we know this. And so exposure to the juvenile system, the justice system, the level of trauma and what that does to them, that increases that with barriers to education, barriers to employment, increased physical and sexual abuse, suicide, mental health and physical development. Also, three national organizations, Child and Adolescent Health Group, American Academy of Pediatrics, and the National Coalition, Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Coalition. All three of those have recommended a minimum age of at least 12 and over in the past few years. And then research also compared to the other two groups, those with a history of child incarceration were disproportionately Black or Hispanic males and from lower socioeconomic areas. And then what we also know is that at a young age, if they're incarcerated or never been incarcerated, then they're a positive, the positive of that increases because incarcerated as children or had worse adult challenges with physical and mental health than those incarcerated at older and never incarcerated.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that this is something that we need passed for our kids. So I heard, Rachel, you had mentioned, so just so everybody, just to repeat, Jason Nemes is a representative in the House. So if he's your rep, reach out to him, thank him, encourage him. I think so that's the place to look for movement now. And I can promise as soon as that bill is filed, we'll let all of you know through our email list. And I think what we can also do is, I see Rachel has offered to share more data and information. We also have fact sheets on our website that breaks it all down for you to help prepare you to make those calls. So there's one more item for your to-do list. Thank you so much, Mavis and Rachel, for that. And now we'd like to turn to the last piece that we'd like to focus on is a bill that we expect to be, there's a jacket open, we expect the language to be finalized that would address the high rate of children who have parents who are incarcerated. And so, Cortney, I now want to turn it to you to ask you to kind of give an overview of what's in this bill, what can we expect to see, who's sponsoring it, and what's the strategy moving forward.
Thanks, Patricia. And like she said, this bill would really go a long way in reducing the number of kids who are separated from their parents due to incarceration. So Senator Julie Rocky Adams is the one who is sponsoring the bill. We are still finalizing the bill language, so there isn't a bill number yet. It hasn't been assigned to committee, but it is going to mostly replicate a law that was passed in Tennessee a few years ago, and will likely include a few of the following components. So the court will be able to consider a few things if a nonviolent offense was committed, and then if the defendant is the primary caregiver of a dependent child. So based on those answers, if they're yes, then the court will have expanded discretion to impose an individually assessed, community-based sentence that really prioritizes that parent-child unity and support for families. And so when when this individualized sentence is imposed, the court can require that the caregiver meet certain conditions, and that can include a wide range of things. That can include mental health screening, education or treatment, drug and alcohol treatment, domestic violence education and prevention, and then also kind of on the other end of the spectrum, things like vocational and educational services, job training and placement, safe housing assistance, financial literacy, family and individual counseling. So there's a really wide array of options that are at the court's disposal with this. anyone, another piece that would be included in this bill would say that anyone who is actually serving one of these individually assessed sentences can be required to appear in court to evaluate their progress, whether it's with treatment, rehabilitation, or educational services, or to determine if they've, violated the condition of the sentence in any way. And again, that just reiterates that it is completely a discretionary option for the courts. As you know, as I said at the start, Kentucky continues to be in, I believe, the top 5 in the nation for children who are being separated from a parent due to incarceration. So passing a bill like this will really help to reduce those numbers, and more importantly, it'll help keep families together as well. Senator Rocky Adams over the past couple of years has had some pretty groundbreaking bills with, like the Dignity Bill passing, that have really gone a long way in supporting parents and emphasizing those community-based alternatives to incarceration. So reach out to her, thank her for continuing to prioritize families. And then, ask your senators as well to support this bill. And then obviously, as soon as it's officially filed and the bill language is out there, we will let you all know about that as well.
Thanks, Cortney. And I wonder, in these initial conversations, do you have any tips for advocates? What's the potential pushback they might be hearing and how to respond to that?
I think one of the things that we've heard at least a little bit is that, well, maybe not a little bit, but, folks are really focused on being a little tougher on crime. There seems to be a bit of a spike, or people are really emphasizing like there's a spike in violence, regardless of, how much of a spike there is, or, where we're seeing it, or what types of crime we're seeing. So it's all just kind of conflated into this one big issue that means that folks need to be tougher on crime. So I think that one of the best ways to message this is to say, we as a state really consider ourselves to be pro-family. There's a lot of, bills that just emphasize the importance of keeping families together. And I think, when you're looking at being, pro-family, you're also pro-public safety. The data has shown, not only with juveniles, but with adults as well, if you can keep those families together, if you can keep people out of jail, especially for nonviolent offenses, they're much less likely to recidivate. They're going to do much better. So I think it's just really emphasizing that you can't really be pro-family without also being pro-public safety.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. And now I'm going to kick it back to our coach, our advocacy coach, who wants to give us some tips. Tell us where to go next.
Yeah, no, I don't want to intrude, but I just want to make 2 points. One is what our friends at AOC were talking about. I just want to emphasize whether he's your representative or not, calling Jason Nemes and saying, hey, we hear you're leading on this. Thanks so much. The other thing is, let's get ahead of the curve. So the House Judiciary Chair, and we can maybe drop that link in our chat, now's the time to call him as well as House leadership to say, we understand that the House is going to lead this effort. Thank you so much. So in other words, grease the skids now. The other thing that I just want to emphasize, Cortney gave a great answer. Both of these measures that AOC and Cortney talked about, feel comfortable saying that this is about helping kids, but it's also good for public safety. Be aware that the changes around parental incarceration are only going to affect low threshold folks who are locked up, which is the disproportionate number. I mean, I don't know how to say this nicely, and I'm sure this is politically incorrect, so folks will let me know that, but we're not talking about hardened felons. We're talking about very minor offenders who probably should be at home anyway, probably should be working anyway. as opposed to being locked away. So Cortney is right on target. Rachel and Mavis alluded to that same thing. We're in an era where it's like, we got to be tough, man. Look what's happening. That's not what we're talking about. And don't let your legislator conflate the argument. Stay focused on, hey, no. We're not talking about that. Here's what we're talking about. So I just wanted to stress that. Again, I also wanted to stress that what we've learned is greasing the skids for somebody like Representative Nemes, because I think Rachel and Mavis, and I know Cortney would tell you, that actually takes more guts than we are maybe saying, because that has been hard to get rolling. So Representative Nemes needs a shout out, but so does leadership to make sure that they're ready to receive it when he does it. Okay, so Patricia, since we're almost out of time, I'm not going to interrupt you again, but I appreciate you giving me a little margin here.
Absolutely. Good coaching points there from somebody who's been doing it a long time. I think we've given you a pretty full list of to-do items. And as I promised, we'll be sending an email with that. I want to thank all of our panelists today for sharing. Thank you, Mandy. I see you've had lots of answers in the chat. I've seen contact information shared, so you know how to follow up. So really encourage you. We might finish a few minutes early, which will give you time to go ahead and make those calls right now. To close, I'd like to thank Aetna Better Health of Kentucky for their support of today's Advocate Virtual Forum. And as always, we're going to follow up with an email with a recording of today's forum, and links that we discussed will capture what's been listed in the chat. And thank you again for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.